I guess, us, Jamie sitting back there, to come and speak to you on behalf of the 2026 Apple Butter and Cheese Festival this evening. As all of you are aware, 2025 was our 50th anniversary, and none of this could be possible without all our volunteers and so much time and support from the township too. I know you have a copy of our budget in your agenda package, so you will have seen that our anticipated expenses after those, our committee is hoping to raise over $15,000 in 2026 festival, which is being held on September 26, 2026. If there's anything you would like to know more about, we will do our best to explain it. So the ABC Festival will be downtown again this year, and all our market vendors will need to be outdoors again. We are bringing in quite a few food trucks and food vendors to support our festival. And at this time, I'm respectfully requesting that the license fees be waived for these vendors this year. So that has been done in the past, and I think we forgot to come and ask for it before. The Apple Butter and Cheese Festival Reserve currently has a healthy balance of over $130,000. So we are excited to look for some significant projects this year. Once again, we would like to sincerely thank the Township Council and the staff for all your support this past year, and we truly appreciate all you do for our community.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Do we have a motion? We happen to have a motion prepared. Could you read the motion, please?
Thank you. So the motion reads that the Council of the Township of Wellesley waive the mobile food vending permit fee for all food vendors registered to participate in the Wellesley Apple Butter and Cheese Festival for the 2026.
I have a mover, Councillor Brick. Could I have a second, Councillor Herget? Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now should mention that the budget portion, the ABC budget portion, is one of the last items on the agenda. You're aware of that? You're going to stick around for that in case there's any questions? Okay. We'll move to recreation. Councillor Wagner.
Thank you. There is nothing from the Recreation Advisory Committee yet, correct, Director?
Correct.
Okay. Staff reports, Rec 3 2026 fees and charges amendment for extra days setup. Motion required. Recommendation that the Council of the Township of Wellesley approve the proposed amendments to Schedule F of the Recreation Fees and Charges Bylaw 33/2025 to revise the extra day setup fee structure for community center rentals such that the fee be set at 50% of the applicable rental rate charged to the user group. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Herget, seconded by Councillor Brick. Discussion.
Just a question for Danny. It says the applicable rental rate, that would just be the 1 day. And if someone had 3 days rented or the weekend rented?
Correct. That would just be the 1 day of the rental. So if there was a 3-day rental, it would be the applicable rate of the first day after the setup day.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I should have asked if you had a report you wanted to bring forward.
Sure. Thanks, Councilor Wagner. Again, this report is just to highlight a slight change in the fees and charges bylaw for the setup days at our community centers. The current way the fees and charges bylaw reads is the setup day is $250, which is 50% of the prime time full day rate of Linwood or St. Clements Community Center. The intent of the setup day rate was meant to be 50% of the applicable day rate that the renter has booked, meaning that if the regular booking is a Monday to Thursday, the setup day would be 50% of the non-prime rate. This will be the same for all hall bookings, making the setup day 50% of the regular rate the user is paying for their rental. Thanks. I don't take any questions.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Councillor Seven.
Danny, has there been any thought given to maybe making it a little more flexible with that? What I mean by that is if the hall hasn't been rented the day before an event and someone calls just before the event and asks if they can get in that night to put up tables or whatever, is there any leeway or any give to that amount, or is it
That would have to be a council direction because staff have to follow the fees and charges bylaw, and where it states the setup day fee, that's what staff are required to follow. So that would have to be a council direction.
Is that something that we can put forward just to give it a little more flexibility? Or is that,
Yeah.
Work procedurally.
you can think about it, doesn't have to be right now either.
Yeah, that's something that may be identified in the notes of the schedule. So we could look at an amendment in that way.
I'm just thinking if it hasn't been rented the day before and somebody calls and says, you know, we'd like to get in, if maybe charging them $100 rather than $250 because they're only going to be there an hour or whatever, you'd still get some money for it and it hasn't been rented by anyone else. So is that too hard to?
If I could just ask Danny, what would the typical rate be at 50%?
The full hall rental for Linwood and St. Clements on a weekend would be $500. So the setup day rate would be $250. On a non-prime day, the hall rental is $253. So the setup day would be 50% of that rate.
So I guess my recommendation would be to change the 50% applicable rental rate to a set dollar value if that's something you would rather see.
Rick?
Just wondering if maybe council wants to defer this motion today and it can be brought back at the council meeting, which is when it would be ratified anyhow. And maybe a little more discussion on what fee you would like to see, perhaps if it is a last minute request rather than booking ahead to guarantee that that's available. So if it is maybe the evening before, maybe it's a 25% if you're requesting it that day. And if that's the kind of fee structure we want to look at, then Danny could look to revise this recommendation and bring it back to that council meeting in 2 weeks.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Work?
Yeah. So, motion to defer.
If the mover and seconder are okay with changing the motion.
Are you okay with
Defer?
deferring? Okay.
So you don't. Okay.
Okay, then I will move on to the director update, please.
Right, thanks, Councilor Wagner. Just short update tonight. With March break coming, there will be free public skating available at both the St. Clements Arena and the Bill Geese Recreation Center. Please follow social media for these dates and times. And also thank you to our sponsors who are sponsoring these free skates. The Wellesley Applejacks are up 2-0 in their first round series against Hespeler, with a game tonight in Hespeler, and then they're back in Wellesley on Friday night, and then if need be Saturday night. So come out and support the local junior team. And lastly, the due date for the Recreation Service Advisory Committee applications is March the 2nd. So councilors, if you have any interested residents in your ward, please have them reach out to the clerk's department with their application.
Thank you. Is there any, do you have any questions for Danny on his report? Okay, then that's it for me.
Okay, we'll move to planning and development. Councillor Brick.
Do we have a director's update? Thanks, Councillor Brick. 2 items this evening. The first is there is a new regulation that's been passed. It was originally brought forward as part of Bill 17. And what it does is it permits a certain minor variances to minimum setback requirements and zoning bylaws to be considered as of right. So you may have heard of this, or maybe I've spoke about this before. It's kind of been called the 10% rule. But essentially what happens is, to qualify, lands must be within a parcel of urban residential land. Okay, so for us, it's really in the Wellesley urban area that we're talking about, and we're talking about in the UR, the UR2, and the UR3 zones. So those are what we're considering to be urban residential land. And the as of right variation has been set, and this is province-wide, at 10%. So what that means is if the minimum setback is 10 meters in the zoning bylaw, like a rear yard or a side yard or something like that, then the setback, it can be reduced to 9 meters without the need for a minor variance. So this initially came forward in the province in large cities where perhaps a tower is looking for a half a meter setback or something relatively inconsequential or arguably inconsequential. I don't think that the intention was to really think about rural municipalities when this was happening. So yeah, so that's a change that we now have to implement on the staff level, kind of through our standard operating procedure when we're looking at development, building permits, et cetera. And the impact on us, we don't really see a huge impact on it because we don't typically get a lot of minor variances in Wellesley, but it will have an impact in a decreasing volume of applications. And the one thing I'll say about it is that, sometimes a 1 meter setback matters and sometimes it doesn't. And in this case, in this case, it'll be permitted as of right, whether there's an impact or not, which arguably is maybe not the greatest thing in the world. So that's something we have to live with, and staff will be implementing that. Second item, any questions on that one, actually, maybe before move ahead? Councilor Herget, or sorry, through you, Chair. Councilor Herget.
So basically all your setbacks have just been reduced by 10%.
Yeah. Yes, essentially, yep. So some in the cities, like in Waterloo, for example, they're starting to look at, because they have more complex zones than we do in different parts of the city. So they're thinking of doing a zoning bylaw update with a map as to where this would apply, because certainly won't apply on commercial land, industrial land, those types of things. For us, we feel we can deal with it through kind of our standard checklist through building permit. When a building permit comes in or when a development pre-submission comes in, we can deal with it in our standard checklist. And then maybe when we update our zoning bylaw, following the official plan, like maybe we'll put something in there. We're not entirely sure quite yet, but the impact is fairly minimal right now.
Questions?
Okay. Second item is, you may have heard, or we had been talking about it over the years. The Region of Waterloo has endorsed the Wellesley Water and Wastewater Master Plan, which is good news. As you know, this plan will assist us in ensuring that there's enough water and wastewater servicing for future development lands in the Wellesley urban area to 2051. A few highlights of the report or the final strategy. The village itself is expected to grow from a 2021 population of about 3,700 to about 5,600 by 2051. So that's just the Wellesley urban area, not the township. The study was undertaken to find the best way to provide water and wastewater services to support that added growth. In terms of the water system, it will require increases to the existing water supply and also to provide off-site water storage in the form of an elevated tower. So that's going to happen between now and 2051. So you'll see an elevated tower in the village of Wellesley. I think the preferred location in the report is on the Bill Geese Recreation Center lands. That's what has been proposed in the final report. The offsite water storage will require a future class environmental assessment. So this isn't the last time that it'll be considered. but essentially the strategy puts forward, looked at a number of different locations, and that's the location that it's putting forward. And staff concur with that. We think it's the best location of the ones that were considered. In terms of the wastewater system, it will obviously require an expansion. That's no secret, to the plant. Also expansion to the Farella Creek trunk sewer, and various wastewater collection system improvements that include inflow and infiltration reduction measures. The Wellesley treatment plant expansion will require a further Class EA to complete. And that also includes what's called an assimilative capacity study for the Nith River, which is already underway. So assimilative capacity study is essentially how much, environmentally speaking and ecologically, how much treated wastewater can the Nith River accommodate through its entire length. So that includes downstream as well as upstream. What do I want to say? Capacity up and downstream. Yeah, discharge up and downstream. So one final step. The final report needs to be posted for one last public engagement opportunity. It's posted for 30 days, a 30-day public review, and that'll end on March the 12th. There's no additional in-person or online in-person public consultation. It's simply for viewing and commenting. Anybody can comment on it, and all the project information is at regionofwaterloo.ca/Wellesley Water. It's also on their Engage website as well. So that's all for this evening, Councillor Brick, unless there's any questions.
Any further questions? Good.
Just so when this was brought forward to regional council, there was two questions that I asked. One was with regard to the assimilative capacity of the Nith River. If it shows that it can't handle anymore, what would be the options? And they sort of suggested that they would be then looking at different types of technologies, I guess, that could. So in other words, it's not going to put a dead stop to development within the town. That's my understanding. I don't know if you felt the same way.
No, I would agree with that. I mean, it's this sort of thing. I don't want to say it happens all the time. It's happened elsewhere before. But there is a need to, if that, in the event that happens, then yes, there would have to be other ways of figuring out how to service the village. Like it's not okay. Everything's over, right? It's a case where, they would have to figure out a way.
And I guess the other thing I was just going to mention, in that report, it suggested that in 26 and 27, there's a total of about $3 million going to be spent on that existing plant. And I asked them if that was going to increase capacity, and they said, yes, it would. I don't have any numbers they didn't have any numbers at the time, but definitely it will increase capacity for future use. So I thought that was important to know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I could also say that anybody wants a full copy of that report, you can go to the region's website. It's an interesting read, I think, to see how there's a lot of numbers and funny things in there.
Yeah, we've attended every meeting we were invited to. We've collaborated with them and provided our input along the way. It's been, I believe it started in the fall of 2022, if I'm correct. This report, there's a lot of data and modeling and site visits. There's a lot of work that goes into something like this because they want to get it as accurate as possible, including the financials, because that certainly will have an impact. So I like to call it the end of the beginning.
So just when you talk about financials, I think it said in that report that any of the work that has to be done going forward would be handled through development charges.
Yeah, I think that's majority of it would be.
So it's not going to be, it's not going to affect the levy.
Not that I'm aware of. No, like that's how we would capture. That's how we would capture those costs. It would be regional development charges primarily.
I think that's important to know because I think people see a new tower going up and they're wondering who's going to pay for it.
Sure. Yep. No, it's largely development related, and that's essentially how the Development Charges Act works and why it's in place.
Any further questions? Go back to the mayor.
Okay, we'll go to, where are we going to go to? Property and fire. No, we're going to back up and go to Road and Bridge. Councilor Urquhart.
Thank you, Mayor Noack. R&B 2026 gravel resurfacing program tender award. Motion required. Recommendation that the council of the Township of Wellesley approve the award of contract number 2026-03 for supply and placement of granular material for the annual gravel resurfacing program to DJ Jackson Haulage Limited at a unit rate of $18.40 per metric ton and a total contract amount of $348,680 plus applicable HST, which will be funded from the Public Works operating budget. Can I get a mover? Councillor Wagner, seconded by Councillor Seven. Does the director have a report?
Yes, thank you, Councilor Urquhart. So this is the tender for our annual gravel resurfacing. We had gotten away from tendering after a couple of years where the tendering process yielded only one bid, and the rate of that bid was significantly over the approved budget. So as a response to that, staff had started to seek quotes from gravel pits for the supply of the material and separate quotes from trucking companies to haul the material to site. And based on the value of these combined contracts, staff felt it was prudent to go back to a public tender process prior to seeking quotes after the tender if the tender continued to yield unfavorable results. But we felt it was important to go back to that public tender process. Fortunately, when this tender closed, we received 3 submissions and we were very happy with the unit rate from the low bidder as it kept us well within our approved budget. Gravel normally happens around mid to late May and takes approximately 2 weeks to complete. It is generally done in coordination with the dust suppressant application. And that's all I have for this one. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the director? I just have one. Do you know what gravel pit it will be coming from?
No, that's I haven't determined that yet. For our purposes, it's a little bit irrelevant just because it's a unit rate, so that includes the hauling. So, but once this is approved today, I have on my list to contact the contractor tomorrow and get a lot of that information and start scheduling. So,
Okay, thank you. If there's no more questions, I'll call a vote. All in favor? That's carried unanimous. Moving on, the director update.
thank you, Councilor Urquhart. So weather has let up a little bit. We've had some minor melts. There's still a lot of snow accumulation, but we haven't been snow loading anymore, which is a good thing. So we seem to be in a really good place that way. But we've moved into the dreaded pothole season, and there are a lot of potholes out there in every municipality, ours included. We do not have hot asphalt to patch them permanently until the asphalt plants open in the spring, but we can temporarily patch them with cold mix, but it's, again, a temporary fix, and it's also more expensive than our hot mix. So, but we are out fixing them as needed. The Transportation Master Mobility Plan is going very well. As I think I noted last time, the final draft now is being prepared. Hopefully we see something late March, early April now as a final report to council on that one. Staff are excited to get that into our hands so that we have some strategic direction moving forward. You just approved the gravel resurfacing tenders, and we had another tender deadline for a bridge rehabilitation project close at 2 p.m. today. So you'll probably see that report next meeting. And we have several several more tenders in the works that we're going to be posting. So there's a lot of construction projects happening this summer. Lastly, we have a candidate hired for the temporary public works supervisor position. He will be starting on March 9th, and I'll bring him to council or to a council meeting shortly thereafter for a formal introduction. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the director? Okay,
Okay, we will now go to property and fire, Counselor Seven.
Chief Redmond, do you have a director's update for us?
Oh, thank you, Councilor Seven. Just a quick one. An update. We did meet on January 28th, I believe, with the representative from Pierce for our new truck coming in to the St. Clemens station. Chassis aren't across the border yet, but everything is still status quo. I think we're expecting this in June to have the truck finished. But we were meeting to just pick the shelving locations. We're going to add some electrical outlets, that type of thing to it, drive screen locations. And we're working on our plans to, once it gets here, get everybody in that station trained on the pump as quickly as we can and get that out there. So we'd like to see it here and operational, ideally within 2 to 3 weeks of it arriving. So hopefully we'll see that out on the road, just cruising, not going to emergencies in early summer. And then we'll just watch for social media coming up, especially in the next month, probably before the next committee meeting. I would bring this up now. Just ideally, the weather's going to warm up, and it's probably wishful thinking with it being so cold today. But coming at the end of February, early March, we're going to expect those warm stretches. We've already had a little bit of rain. And I think once it's just been with all this snow, as the public works is seeing, where I expect we're probably going to see some pretty significant water levels. So I expect those daily calls and messages from the GRCA, which we'll post on our social media in the township, and we'll keep everybody on council apprised of that too. So that's all we have. Thanks.
Any questions? No? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we will go to AAF and P, or just a sec here. Admin and Finance, AF and P 6/2026. There's the recommendation, whereas the Township of Wellesley has used the internet telephone voting method for 2 previous municipal elections with success. And further, whereas the 2022 municipal and school board election, 217 Ontario municipalities used internet and or phone combined method. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Wellesley approve the alternative voting method of the internet and telephone voting for the 2026 municipal and school board elections. And further, that bylaw amendment 7/2026 being a bylaw to provide for alternative voting method for the 2026 municipal and school board election be given first and second and third reading at the March 10th, 2026 council meeting. Have a mover for that, please. Councillor Brick, second by Councillor Herget. This, and maybe would like to bring that forward.
Thank you, Mayor Nowak. In April 2025, Council approved the alternative voting method of internet voting for the 2026 municipal and school board election. At that time, staff were concerned with the ability to source a service provider that would also offer telephone voting. During that discussion, it was determined that if we could source a service provider that offered a telephone voting option, the bylaw would be brought back for approval by council to have both internet and telephone voting available for the municipal election. So we have secured a service provider who offers both internet and telephone. So this is just bring the report back to pass the bylaw before the May 1st deadline.
Questions? Comments? No questions. All in favor then? And that is carried. AF and P 7/2026. Annual community event motion required, whereas the Township of Wellesley Recreation Complex is the most compatible township recreation facility to host large-scale community events. And further, whereas the Township of Wellesley Recreation Complex has successfully hosted community events, therefore be it resolved that the 2026 and future backyard barbecue annual community events be held at the Township of Wellesley Recreation Complex, and further that the Township of Wellesley Backyard Barbecue Annual Community Event be recognized as a municipally significant event. Can I have a mover for that, please? Counselor Seven, second by Counselor Wagner. And Julianne is going to bring that forward.
So this report reflects staff's recommendation to designate the Wellesley Rec Complex as the location for the 2026 backyard barbecue, as well as for future events. With the success of past events held at the Rec Complex, as well as the advantages of the location, this represents the most cost-effective and accessible location for the barbecue. You'll see in the report, we did survey the other locations within the township. We're just thinking that this is the best option moving forward. It includes indoor space in case of inclement weather and then adequate on-site washrooms.
Discussion. Any questions? Questions? Call the question. All in favor then? And that's also carried unanimously. Thank you. AF&P 8/2026 onboard mobile surveillance system policy, motion required. Recommendation that the Council of the Township of Wellesley adopt the onboard mobile surveillance system policy as outlined in this report, and further the council authorize staff to amend the dash cameras section of the electronics monitoring policy to refer to the onboard mobile servicing policy for specific operating. Could I have a mover for that, please? Councillor Wagner, second by Councillor Seven. And who would bring that? And Councillor.
Councillor. Thanks, Mayor Nowak. So this report is recommending forward and driver facing dash cams to be installed in all township fleet vehicles. The fleet action plan is now a requirement from the Waterloo Region Municipal Insurance Pool. And what that means is they're looking for policies that reduce liability and improve available evidence in the case of claims against the municipality. This policy provides protection for employee privacy and outlines when and how camera footage can be used. Audio is not being recommended as part of this, even though the cameras have that physical capability. We have not determined any benefit to audio recording, so that is not being recommended. And approving this policy would provide added risk protection against claims for the municipality. So that's the presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Questions?
So from what I understand, there hasn't been very many accidents in our township. And of those accidents, how many would have been helped by having the driver facing cameras? Do you have any idea on that?
So no, we don't have any data to that. Basically, adding the cameras is like adding an insurance policy, right? You buy insurance in the hope you never ever have to use it, and the cameras are the same situation.
I guess from my perspective, I'm thinking that if it isn't a big benefit at this point, if we don't have a lot of accidents, and we know that the drivers are not in favor, a lot of the drivers are not in favor of it, would it make sense at this point to have the outward facing cameras and maybe hold off on the driver facing ones until it's an issue, until something happens that, you know, maybe more accidents or whatever, let's bring it forward at that time?
Yeah, I mean, certainly council can make whatever decision they like on this. From a professional perspective, the recommendation is to install both for that risk management piece. Again, it's something that we hope to never, ever have to use, just like we hope to never have to use our insurance policies. But from a true risk management perspective, having them in place is certainly better than not having them. It's when that inevitable situation happens, which is hopefully a long time down the road, but if we don't have them in place, we don't have that protection.
Councillor Herget.
It's certainly been an interesting topic, and I think everyone agrees the forward-facing camera is definitely a benefit to have. I'm not in favor of the driver-facing camera. I think it's going to deter good candidates in the future from applying possibly. And it may encourage some of the current staff to look elsewhere if they're not comfortable with the camera. So that's my opinion. So, and before I forget, Amy, can we have a recorded vote? Thank you.
Any other questions? I just replied to Councillor Sebens. I mean, I don't understand why we would wait for something to happen before you implement something. I think you want to preempt it, you know, and I can understand where it's something different and something new, and I can understand where some of the staff may feel a little bit uneasy with it. But from my understanding and discussions with staff, they are a little uneasy with it, but they're willing to accept it. So, and I think it protects the township. It protects the driver as well. I mean, I just recently, I don't know if you read the paper, the accident on 86, where the big transport truck hit two vehicles. This was in the paper yesterday. The driver was playing games on his transport unit, and somehow they were able to identify that, which puts the liability then not on the people on the ground, but on the driver itself. So, you know, as long as our drivers are, you know, doing the right thing, there should be no problem.
And that's kind of where I'm going with that too, that so far we haven't had many accidents. If we'd had a whole bunch of accidents and there was questions on whether or not the drivers were at fault, I could see putting the driver facing cameras, but at this point, if there haven't been, I don't know. I'm like Councillor Herget. I think, are you willing to take the risk of losing staff, good staff, because we heard at budget time that it's difficult and costly to rehire and retrain. So are we willing to take that chance when there's not a lot of benefit to it at this point? Down the road, if there's accidents and we see a benefit to it, sure, bring it back and get the council at that time to make that decision. But from my perspective, I'm thinking there's not a great benefit at this time. So why take the chance of losing good staff?
So I'm just wondering about losing staff. Have we got any indication that that might happen?
I have heard nothing to that regard. That doesn't mean those conversations aren't happening behind the scenes. They might be. But I would add that narrative could go either way. You could also have staff members or new recruits that want to come because they're afforded the extra protection that is provided by a camera. So I think it's a hypothetical situation.
Councilor Wagner.
I think we have good staff. I think they do what they're supposed to do. I don't know that we'd lose anybody because of this, because I think they're already doing what they're supposed to do. So I'm not very concerned about us losing people because I think the staff are already doing what they should be doing. And if somebody's not, this just makes them a little more honest as well. So.
Yes, Councilor Brick.
Should this policy be put forward and accepted, what would be the rollout to staff for information around the policy? I believe the policy has a lot of good information about the retention of the video, the surveillance. I know when I first heard about it, it sounds like we're watching all the time, but it speaks to how often when we can check what those parameters are. What does the rollout to staff look like for that messaging?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we did meet with all of the staff prior to bringing this this policy to council, and we informed them at that time. The rollout will be informing them of everything that's in the policy. So we'll go through it line by line so that they would make sure to know everything that's in the policy, how they're protected. Chris is also the administrator of the dash cam footage if this goes through, and he has promised to show them all what we are able to see and kind of what that video clip looks like so that they're fully aware of what management can see or could request.
Yeah, thank you. I believe that that's an important part of this policy, should it move forward, is that the staff have the understanding and the proper knowledge of what the policy, what it lays out, and through that will, I think, help some of the fears that began with this project. So
Other comments? Okay, we'll call on the clerk to call the question.
I'll read the motion one more time. That the Council of the Township of Wellesley adopt the onboard mobile surveillance systems policy as outlined in this report, and further, that council authorize staff to amend the dash cameras section of the electronics monitoring policy to refer to the onboard mobile surveillance policy for specific operating details. Councillor Herget, in favor or opposed?
Opposed?
Councillor Brick, in favor or opposed?
in favor.
Mayor Nowak, in favor or opposed?
In favor?
Councillor Seven, in favor or opposed? Councillor Wagner, in favor or opposed?
In favor.
Vote carries in favor 3-2.
Okay, moving on. AF&P, Apple Butter and Cheese Festival budget. The recommendation that Council of the Township of Wellesley approve the Apple Butter and Cheese Festival Committee 2026 budget as presented. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Brick, second by Councillor Herget. Discussion on that? We do have staff here and I would allow council to ask them some questions if they thought that they would want to. Oh, good. It's a great budget. Well done. It was a great year and I'm glad to see you're in such a strong financial situation right now. We'll try and figure out a way how to spend that money. Anyway. So call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Thanks for coming out. Director's update.
Thanks, Mayor Nowak. I just have a quick update for this evening. The 2025 year end is in full swing. So finance staff are all in the process of closing the books on 2025. Our auditors M&P plan to be on site in early April, and they're going to be there to finish all the testing and assisting with producing our annual financial statements and helping us prepare the FIR for the year. Any questions?
Questions? No? No? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's we have the information package. That's the regional water and wastewater master plan. I think that's been discussed by Tim. Does anybody come up with any thoughts or questions in the meantime, because it's still on the agenda? No. Okay, thanks, Tim, for doing that. Unfinished business? Seeing none. Next meeting, March 10th, 2026. Committee of the whole meeting, March 24th. Council meeting, April 14th. A motion to adjourn, Councillor Wagner. Seconder, Councillor Brick, all in favor, and that's carried.